What's up, everyone? Back with another episode of WTF What the Fitness. And today we have one of our favorite guests coming back. But first, make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a comment for the algorithm. Who's back this week? You know who's back.
Guess who's back? Back again.
It's Dave Asprey. I'm blocked, so anytime I get Dave's stuff, it's just somebody sending it to me. It's a video, but the person who sent it to me said they were not technologically literate, so they didn't send me a screen recording of the video, just a screenshot. But it says what 90 minutes of exercise 6 days a week does to you. And he shows a hippopotamus. Let's see what the description has to say. Okay, it doesn't always do that. No kidding. All these people just gaining mounds of body fat from going to the gym. Huh, amazing. But if you think that going on a low-fat, low-calorie diet and exercising 90 minutes a day is a good idea, it's not. Ooh. In my early 20s, I weighed 300 pounds. Here comes the antidote. Not antidote, sorry. Anecdote. Somebody get the anecdote alert out. This is always what they do because F science, right? Which, by the way, one thing about anecdote, there's no way to verify it. I can literally say, hey, I've got a talking tree out back, but it talks to me telepathically. And you can't prove that it doesn't. And you actually can't because it only talks to me telepathically. Were you 300 pounds? Maybe. I decided that the most important thing on earth was losing it. So for 18 months, I worked out 90 minutes a day, 6 days a week, half weights, half cardio. I still weighed 300 pounds when I was done because you didn't reduce your calories, Dave. I'm sorry. When you overtrain, first off, Dave, I hate to break it to you, but 90 minutes, 6 days a week, 540 minutes, it's a decent amount of exercise, but I probably do 50% more than that. Been 20 plus years and I don't seem to be laying down the belly fat, so, I mean, there's my anecdote. Why is it these low carb folks who emphasize the fact that this is the only way to do it, that you can't possibly lose weight if you're exercising a lot and eating low fat? Why aren't they the most ripped people on earth? Does anybody know? Like, if it's really all about insulin and carbs, like, why aren't they the most ripped people on earth? This should be pretty simple if it's just about carbs and insulin. Now the real BS starts. When you overtrain, your cortisol goes up. High cortisol gives you belly fat. Sustained overtraining with poor nutrition from a plant-based or low-calorie diet can contribute to autoimmune conditions like Hashimoto's, which I also got. Holy crap. So, citation, that which can be asserted without evidence can be dismissed without evidence. Yeah, there's no evidence that exercising is going to give you Hashimoto's. There's no evidence that a plant-based diet is going to give you Hashimoto's or a low-calorie diet. Now, a low-calorie diet can reduce your secretion of thyroid hormone if sustained over time, but that is a normal physiological response. And by the way, goes for low-carb diets as well. 90% of how you look is what's on your plate. Not true. There's plenty of studies that show that you can not change your eating habits at all. And if you just start resistance training, you will gain muscle and lose fat. Not the amount, the quality and the composition. I actually lost body fat when I ate 4,500 calories a day without exercising. No, you didn't. Oh, okay. So I cannot say that this didn't happen. I can't prove that it didn't happen. Just like Dave can't prove that I don't have a talking tree who talks to me telepathically. And I have a relatively high level of confidence that Dave is completely full of crap when it comes to this. You eat 4,500 calories. There are carbons contained in that 4,500 calories, Dave. So what happens to those carbons? Because there's only a few ways they can come out. They come out in your breath as CO2, or in the case of non-metabolizable energy, you will crap them out. Now, the amount of metabolizable energy in fat is higher than in carbohydrate, and especially higher than in fibrous carbohydrate. Fat contains 97 to 100% metabolizable energy, meaning if you eat 100 calories from fat, you will get into your body about 97 to 100% of that. You take in carbohydrate, it's more like 90 to 95%. You take in fiber, it can be as low as 0%, but anywhere between like 0 to like 75%, depending on the type of fiber. So where are those carbons going, Dave? They have to go somewhere. They have to go somewhere. Did you breathe them out? Well, if you breathe them out, that means that you must have been expiring more CO2, which means that your basal metabolic rate had to go up in order for that to happen. Except when we look at low-carb diets versus low-fat diets, there's no difference in BMR when calories are equated. Okay, so it wasn't either of those two, so your body must have retained those carbons, which they're either going to get retained in fat tissue or lean tissue. So does anybody have pictures of Dave being super jacked? The most logical deduction is that you did not in fact eat 4,500 calories a day, because I think your story is made up. At this point, people have lost more than 1 million pounds on the bulletproof diet. Okay, and a broken clock is right twice a day. Eat grass-fed, low-inflammation veggies, whatever that means. People use this word, inflammation. I don't think it means what you think it means. So some people have GI irritation in response to vegetable intake, or they get gas. By the way, fiber, especially soluble fiber, is the main fuel for your gut microbiota. And guess what those microbiota produce when you give them fiber? They produce gas. For some people, this can be painful. We look at people, for example, with irritable bowel syndrome, they don't necessarily produce more gas than other people, but it's that their intestinal lining is much more sensitive to pressure. So that gas and that pressure that causes you pain and discomfort is not necessarily even a bad thing. It's likely not inflammation, FYI. It's just pressure from gas being produced from fiber. A lot of people, including my wife, are sensitive to what's called FODMAPs, and these types of carbohydrates are very fermentable. Most people who have GI, bloating, and gas and pain in response to eating fiber or vegetables, when they isolate out the specific FODMAPs and they remove those or limit those in their diet, they don't have pain anymore. But since they don't go through that process typically, they just go, oh look, veggies cause me inflammation. And that's why you have people on carnivore going, oh, carnivore is a low inflammatory diet. Inflammation is assessed by blood markers like CRP. Your tummy feeling upset is not the same thing as systemic inflammation. So please stop using the term because you're butchering it. Eat grass-fed, low-inflammation veggies. Maybe Dave just means like low FODMAP veggies. But it's okay, Dave. We know science is hard. And occasional fruit. Oh yeah, be careful of that fruit. It'll go get you. And avoid seed oils at all costs. So I haven't really touched on the seed oil thing yet, because quite frankly, I don't want to deal with the absolutely insane people in the anti-seed oil camp, but I'm going to have to at some point. All I will say is all the anti-seed oil people do is look at rodent studies where they feed them copious amounts of seed oils, then look at correlation data showing that oil consumption has increased and disease has increased, and they go, aha, see, proof. If you guys looked at the saturated fat data, it has those two elements, but then also randomized human control trials. Which, oh, by the way, there's no randomized human control trials showing that when you substitute seed oil for saturated fat per se, or polyunsaturated fats for saturated fat, that increases inflammation or causes disease or anything like that. In fact, the research shows that substituting polyunsaturated fats in place of saturated fats actually, if anything, doesn't change inflammation or actually reduces it when you actually measure inflammation and not your feels, and it decreases the risk of type 2 diabetes. And there's quite a bit of evidence suggesting it decreases the risk of heart disease as well. So let me get this straight. You're going to value some rodent studies and correlation data over a body of literature that also includes those, but then includes human cohort studies and randomized human control trials. That is a special kind of cognitive dissonance. And it's funny, seed oils have kind of become like Monsanto. You guys remember Monsanto like 10 years ago? Like if you just breathed the word Monsanto, everybody's like, oh, and they just had like an image of the devil pops up. It's become something that people just say the word seed oil, and it's become dogma. That, oh, it just must be bad. Like I have people on my commenting, well, you can't possibly think seed oils are good for you. In fact, one special genius said, well, if you drank a liter of canola oil a day, I'm sure that you would be much more unhealthy. Well, I'm sure I would too, genius, since a liter of canola oil has 8,000 calories in it. There's no evidence that seed oils are uniquely disease-causing or obesity-causing. None. Zero. Zilch. In fact, there was actually one study where they gave polyunsaturated fats in place of saturated fats and noted that their lean mass increased compared to the saturated fat group, and they actually had like a recompositioning effect. So if anything, it's the opposite. Sorry. Avoid seed oils at all costs. Cycle keto if you do it. Okay, so wait a minute. So carbs are bad, they cause inflammation, but then you cycle keto to bring carbs back in. Say what, bruh? So this whole post is just like taking different things and slinging it against a wall and hoping something is going to stick in terms of like catchy phrases and buzzwords like inflammation. And for God's sakes, drink your coffee. That might be the one thing that we agree on, Dave. I do like a good cup of coffee, but definitely not yours. Did I cover everything? I think I did. That was a lot of stuff in one video. Once again, I'd like to personally thank Dave Asprey for being so generous and providing us with so much content. And I hope Mark Hyman is not going to be offended or jealous. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. See you next week.